Hello from North Carolina. This is our 28th live session. So, our plan is to go live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to share fashion industry news from the previous week. And that is my cue to switch up my banner here. Fantastic. I did that fairly seamlessly. So, if you are Team Replay or Team Live, please let us know where you are joining from by leaving a comment below. So we are also still trying to reach 100 subscribers on our YouTube page. If you guys are watching us on LinkedIn, I dropped the link in the comments there. We're trying to reach 100 subscribers by Friday. So I also wanted to give a shout out to the tias that came in clutch with their support. So my aunties, Titi Manuela and Titi Sonia, I'm definitely going to get back to you after this live, and so appreciate your support and just all the support that I've been getting from friends and family. So thank you so much. I am Rosalinda Cruz. I am the founder and chief business development officer of the ASOR Collective, where we help underrepresented leaders in fashion with strategic planning and advising. So our mission is really to support a more diverse and inclusive sustainable fashion industry by filling the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. So on these lives, I try to reconcile my love of fashion and retail with my values around sustainability, diversity, and inclusion. I advocate for supply change and also raise buyer awareness, which sometimes those things are in conflict. But really what my goal is to get out of the silo effect and work across sectors in the fashion industry to create solution-based conversations versus hair splitting debates. So one of the things that I always say is that I think that we need to get more comfortable speaking the truth, whether it fills the room or clears it out. So that is my cue also to switch banners. I love a good agenda. So this is our agenda. In our time together, I cover announcements, planning, PSAs, North Carolina news, because some of you may or may not know, but North Carolina is the #1 textile producing state in the US, and we've got some really amazing things happening here. But industry news, product services, workforce, and then the green carpet. So the green carpet is where I talk about brands, concepts, and processes and that are being called to the proverbial carpet. So actually, thank you for Dr. Fields, who's tuning in from the DMV. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, so let's get into it. Announcements and planning PSAs. All right, so June, we have our next executive roundtable, which is happening tomorrow. Totally snuck up on me. But we are doing an executive roundtable on government export assistance for product that's or apparel products that's made in the USA. I'm going to be doing that with Dr. Jordan Knox. But one of the things that we had actually talked about is really being able to open this up to more people. So we're actually thinking about doing a lunch and learn next week. So if that is something that you would be interested in, please drop a comment below or send me a DM or email me. Either way, I can get you some information on that. But we are halfway through the year. And from a planning cadence perspective, May, we talked about really, and this is not just specific to apparel, but I feel like in May you should be refining your Q3 strategies. Where it gets specific to apparel is that in May, really the big focus of the third quarter, which is July, August, and September, is getting ready for spring, summer 2023 market, which happens in September. Also a very, very important time of year. So you want to make sure that you did that in May, or at least are catching up on that while we are in the first half of June. And my mouth got dry again, so I'm taking a sip of my water. Never got my hands on those lemons. Somebody told me that putting lemon in your water is a trick for not getting a dry mouth when you're speaking. So in June, from a planning cadence perspective, you should be batch creating your Q3 content, right? And also reviewing your Q4 strategies. So Q4, another, I would say actually the biggest time in the apparel season, because that is that's October, November, and December, which is Black Friday, Cyber Monday week, along with all of the holidays. And the shopping and selling that goes along with that. So you want to make sure that you are planning as much as you can in advance, so that when you're in the moment, you can be as nimble as possible. I think that one of the things that the last couple of years has taught us is that really, as a business, you really need to be nimble and be able to react in the moment to whatever's happening in the market. Right? So let's make sure that we're planning as much as possible ahead of time, so you free up your time, your space, your teams to react to in the moment business needs. So that's that for announcements and planning PSAs. North Carolina news. So North Carolina news. Johnny Hackett Jr. Of Black Friday Inc. And Black Dollar Inc. and Black Friday Market, and also the factory, which is their newest venture. It's a co-working and co-manufacturing space. So they have a couple of events coming up. This Friday, they have the Friday night market, which is called Black on the Block. And they are also having their second annual Shoppers Block series, which is going to kick off it's a 3-month series, but it's also going to kick off the Juneteenth celebration. So Juneteenth is on Sunday, which is also Father's Day, but the celebration is taking place on Saturday. And one of the things that I also wanted to say about Juneteenth is that, we've been seeing a lot of things in the news around Juneteenth, and I feel like it's really important to mention this. I think that there are some businesses that are definitely trying to capitalize as much as they can, off of this holiday. But one of the things that I want to say as a non-Black person is that one of the best things that you can do to celebrate Juneteenth is to pour into and support Black-owned businesses, right? I think that that's the best thing that you can do and the best way that you can celebrate. So please do that. And also, don't just limit it to that day. Make sure that you are supporting Black-owned businesses every day, or as much as possible, at least. So I'm going to get off my soapbox for that one, but I think that that's an important thing for people to hear. So this year, the Global Entrepreneurship Week, it is going to be taking place on the week of November 14th through the 20th. And NC Ideas Ecosystem Summit will kick off the state's Global Entrepreneurship Week. And this year, the summit is actually going to be in Winston-Salem. In previous years, it has been in Raleigh. I think that last year, I can't remember if they did it in person last year or if it was a virtual event, but I know at least in 2020, it was a virtual event. They are still offering early bird pricing. So if you are interested in attending, please take advantage of the early bird pricing. I believe that pricing is available until June 20th. Don't quote me on that. And I always talk about what an incredible community we have in North Carolina of entrepreneurs. They are super generous in sharing their knowledge, and I highly recommend that you attend this event because they're all going to be there. So please do that. I'm going to take a sip of water before I switch over to industry news. Lots and lots of stuff happening here. So Kohl's department store, which is so interesting because the first time I saw it referred to as a department store, I was like, what? And I was like, no, actually it is. Like when I think about department stores, I think about sort of the bigger department stores like the Macy's and Bloomingdale's, but Kohl's is a department store, Target is a department store, Kmart was, I don't even know if they're in existence, but in any case, so they have confirmed that they are negotiating exclusively with the retail holding company Franchise Group. So Franchise Group, their portfolio includes the Vitamin Shop and Buddy's Home Furnishing. I have never really heard of before, but supposedly they are trying to finalize securing financing for this deal to go through. So we should probably be hearing something about that in the coming weeks. Also in industry news, Urban is being exposed by a former employee. So Urban is the company that owns Anthropology, Urban Outfitters, Free People, I believe. I feel like there's one more that's missing. Like all of those brands have been definitely in the news for a lot of their greenwashing and really co-opting designs from small BIPOC designers. I recently saw something about that, which was just, it's just awful. It really is. It really is. So I know that we actually have a thunderstorm happening here. So apologies if my connection is a little bit shaky. But one of the other things that was mentioned is in this article was how they are forcing employees to damage out, right, and destroy perfectly good product, which is a little frustrating. I feel like this really ties into the example of Retail Made Me Do It, which was a hashtag that was trending back. I want to say it started in 2020, where there were a lot of people on TikTok talking about the awful things that businesses were making them do, like, you know, destroying product and that sort of thing. Little bummed to hear that is still happening, but hopefully the work that I'm doing is going to change that even in some small way. So also in industry news, Puma is leading in sustainable fashion brands. So in the BOF, which is the Business of Fashion 2022 Sustainability Index, they rated 30 of the largest companies in this sector, and Puma scored a 49 out of 100 points, right? There's still room for improvement there, but apparently the average industry score was 28. So the CEO of Puma definitely agreed that there was a lot of work that still needs to be done, but getting that score was definitely very encouraging. And he also talked about how what they are trying to do is really be in line with the goals of the Paris Agreement on climate change, as well as the UN, the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. I also have to say that I felt a little bit duped because I was really excited about this index, and I wanted to get my hands on a copy. So I went and renewed my membership to BOF so that I could access this report. And I was just about to swear. I swear sometimes, but I was shocked. So I did my search to see if I could find it. I was able to come up with an article that had a great recap and some good information. I feel like that article was more like an executive summary to this index. But when I tried to find the index, it said, download here. I clicked there. It's almost like 4,000 pounds, which is what, probably like $50,000 in US dollars. So I felt a little hoodwinked there. But in any case, if you try and download it, unless you have 4,000 pounds, you ain't getting access to it. And this actually is a little bit frustrating because I feel like, there are some really great resources out there, but they really do cater to some of the larger brands. And things are really inaccessible to small and medium-sized companies. So that really bugs me out. I wish that they had more of a tiered system, which I think that we see a lot with conferences. But the one thing that they did do is they talked about their methodology. And I won't bore you with the details around that. But one of the things that they do reference, they were actually a little cryptic in referencing a couple of companies that they used to help them come up with this terminology, but they didn't name names. And I feel like they intentionally didn't name names. But it felt like it was very similar to the remake sustainability report, which came out early in the year. It seemed like they had a very, very similar grading system. So who knows? Maybe that was one of their partners. Also, the Fabric Act. I'm going to be talking about this until it passes, please, God willing. But so the Fabric Act is a new bill that was introduced in Congress by Senator Kristen Gillibrand a few weeks ago. And really the act is really intended to create major incentives to accelerate domestic apparel manufacturing and also new workplace protections. So they really want to cement the U.S. as a global leader in responsible apparel production. So there's still a lot that you can do. Water. There's still a lot that you can do in terms of supporting this bill. Obviously, you can go to their website. There's information on how to send letters to your senators, asking them to support this bill. We are also still looking for businesses in the apparel and textile space to endorse this bill. So if you think that your business would be open to doing that, please do so. And there's information on the website on how to do that as well. Okay, in product news. So I'm just going to quickly run through this, but product news. So how to juggle sustainability and inflation. So Edited did, they had a little article about this. Edited, is one of my go-to to resources. They work with incredible data and lots of brands, so I really find their information to be very, very reliable. But one of the things that they say is that really only, the most agile companies are going to be able to successfully navigate sustainability and inflation. So one of the things that they did is they took a look at ways that eco fashion can be a win for both consumers and the brands, and they go through different categories of products and compare pricing between conventional and sustainable products. And in some cases, it makes more sense to go with the sustainable options. So that is a win. Also, more from BOF. Apparently, they have been collecting data around pant styles, and skinny jeans have finally been defeated. So straight leg pants are actually, I guess, in trend now. I don't always worry about trends so much, but that's just me, and I think maybe it's because I'm trying to be more sustainable as a consumer, also with my choices. So I don't own any straight pants. Still have a lot of skinny jeans. I will be out of style for a while, but I do have. I don't think I'm going to be wearing pants anytime in the near future, anyways, because it is too hot, and I have probably about 10 dresses that are going to be in heavy rotation. Um, but also circular footwear. So circular footwear is an option, or should I say it is a more realistic option. So apparently 23.5 billion shoes are produced each year, and 95% of them end up in a landfill or incinerated. So due to the complexity of the shoemaking process, recycling and separating the different components is a very complicated process. So Fast Feet Grinded and the Healing Group developed a unique recycling machine that pulverizes and separates used shoes. And really, what their goal is to transform the international footwear industry into a circular industry. So, yay for that. All right. Another sip of my I don't think I had anything for um, service news, nothing in service news. Workforce news, nothing. I have anything out there. Workforce news. All right. Sorry about that. My eyes are failing me. So, workforce news. Another act. So this one is called the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. So it was signed into law by President Biden on December 23rd of 2021, and it is scheduled to take effect on June 21st. So essentially what it does is it would penalize importers and seize their goods by toughening older forced labor laws. But they also are going to be, they've actually reversed the burden of proof. So instead of guilty until proven innocent, or instead of innocent until proven guilty, it is guilty until proven innocent. So I know that some importers are calling this a logistical nightmares and are pleading with the US government to delay implementation. But I do, while I am in full support of um, this new act, I have to say that this is probably going to create even more of a bottleneck in our courts. So that is going to be that's going to be interesting to see. The other thing that I wanted to say as part of this is that in the article that talked about the new Forced Labor Prevention Act, they ask you to do a rather uncomfortable exercise. But one of the things that they do is say, ask their readers who, next time that they are standing in front of their closet, hold on a second. Here. Hey, buddy, I'm in a meeting now. Can I come and check on you in a little bit? Okay, I'll see you in a little bit, buddy. Thank you. That's my dad. I don't know if most of you know that I'm the full-time caretaker of my dad who has dementia, and he is my resident Zoom bomber, although we're not on Zoom, but he has gotten better about that. But no, I don't know why. I just got a little emotional there. But in any case, so in this article, they asked their readers to do this uncomfortable experiment, saying, next time that you're in front of your closet or your wardrobe, run your fingers through your garments, right? And count 5 items containing cotton and stop at the 5th garment. And imagine that 5th garment being created by an enslaved human being. So one of the things that they talk about is the fact that 1 in 5 cotton pieces are using this weaver cotton. So that was an eye-opening experiment to do. And again, hopefully this act is going to prevent some of that cotton from coming to the U.S. And being used in our products. So we move on to the green carpet. I'm going to take a little sip of my water before I get into it. So the green carpet, this is where I talk about brands, concepts, and processes that are being called to the proverbial carpet, right? There is no shortage of ethical dilemmas in the fashion industry, or even silo discussions. There's a whole lot of infighting between farmers, manufacturers, vendors, academia, brands, journalists, and activists, right? And also the gatekeepers. There's a whole lot of gatekeepers too in the industry. It can be pretty intense and, to be perfectly honest, a little contention. But this is really an invitation to a conversation so that we can listen for understanding and be open to dialogue. So I always say I've been in the industry for over 30 years, and even then, I still don't know everything. I get things wrong sometimes, and I'm still learning every day. But one of the things that I have been trying to do since I started doing these lives is to actively practice the art of calling people in versus calling them out. One of the things that I find is that there's no shortage of finger wagging happening in the industry. But this concept was really introduced to me by Loretta Ross, who is a professor at Smith College. He also gave the commencement speech at my alma mater, Hampshire College. But she works with dismantling racism, specifically with white supremacy, and has found that when you call people out, they really come to the conversation defensive. Whereas if you call them in, you're not giving them a pass, but you're really setting the conditions for a dialogue. And that is where the change happens, is by having a dialogue. So, I mean, like I said, there's no shortage of finger wagging when it comes to the sustainability space. And while I think that there are some companies that are only going to change when they get called out and are publicly held accountable for their actions or business practices, but my belief in people or companies' ability to change isn't conditional. So bear with me. Bear with me as I fumble through this active practice of calling people in. So this week I wanted actually to talk about fast fashion. So in the words of Teju Adisa Farrar, sustainability is a verb, not a noun. So is fast fashion's money good here? And here, meaning like these sustainability streets, right? But we're going to put a pin in that and talk about that next week, because one of the things that happened this week is that, last week I had talked a little bit about reshoring and nearshoring. Right. And so I talked about an article that was written or posted by Scenes, where they talk about reshoring and nearshoring being on the rise. But then once you dug into the report, there wasn't a lot of information, and it seemed like the apparel industry was lagging, right? So there was a 27% increase in, oh, that's my alarm. I'm gonna try and wrap this up. So there was a 27% increase in reshoring and nearshoring in the transportation equipment sector, but only a 4% increase in textiles. So we are definitely lagging. If you want to hear more about that, definitely check out my live from last week where I dig into that. But one of the things that I actually wanted to talk about today is CAFTA DR. So that is, many people are familiar with NAFTA, which is the North American Fair Trade Agreement, but CAFTA DR is actually the Dominican Republic Central American Fair Trade Agreement, which allows for duty-free imports of thousands of products, obviously, including textile and apparel. So last week there was an op-ed by Honduran minister Pedro Jose Vaquero Tercero, which Tercero means third in Spanish. So I was like, is he the third or is his last name Tercero? But anyway, so one of the things that he talks about is how for years Honduras has been a prominent textile and apparel exporter, right, in that hemisphere, and how its proximity to the U.S. Can be beneficial. So he talks about the work that the country is doing, and really in this article, one of the things that he does is talks about um, how you can take cotton harvested from Texas, right, and have it be a finished T-shirt in a matter of days, not weeks, and have that same product be in California. Again, in days, not weeks. You can take cotton harvested from Texas and have a T-shirt in California in a matter of days. So this I had to repeat that because one of the things is that this really concerns me, given the increase in the vulnerable population, right? And which is due to the immigration practices that are taking place at the U.S. and Mexican border. It does also tie back to my conversation about nearshoring and reshoring. But one of the things that I wanted to acknowledge is that in the same article, he also talks about how it can take only 3 days from boats to get the product from the Port of Cortez in Honduras, this is northern Honduras, to ports in Houston, and then it could be 3 hours by train. Either way, this feels like neck breaking speed, right? And it doesn't really feel realistic. I think that if you were working with fabric, it could be a more realistic turnaround. Um, and I just, it just concerns me because I'm like, at what expense is this happening, right? I think that if they, like I said, if they're working with fabric, that feels a little bit more reasonable. But I know that there are still several steps that need to take place before you actually even cut the fabric and resting the fabric and then, assembly, all that stuff. But it raises a red flag for me. And so I know that there are many companies that are trying to do better overall, right, with their business practices, especially given the razor thin margins in retail. But there's still a lot of brands out there knowingly using practices that exploit people, right, and especially in foreign lands. So I feel like there's a lot of the don't ask, don't tell, although this is a totally different topic. But yeah, so I was kind of shocked by that. And I went back to the article, and this was something that was posted by the National Council of Textile Organizations. So they have like almost 5,000 followers, but this article only got nine likes on it. So I don't know if that's because many people feel the same concern that I do. But yeah. And then the other thing that I was going to say too is that in preparing for, getting my notes together for today's live and doing my due diligence, I saw a post again by the National Council of Textile Organization, which talked about nearshoring the industry to the Western Hemisphere. And one of the things that they say in this post is to promote economic prosperity in Central America and to help address migration issues. So there's definitely a lot of leaders that are supporting that. A lot of them are attending the Summit of the Americas, and this is definitely um, uh, uh, I don't wouldn't say a hot button issue, but definitely a conversation. And I do agree that a lot of times. I'm not an immigration expert, but I do. Um, this is something that I try my best to stay up to date on. And I know that a lot of people are fleeing violence in their own country, but also fleeing from countries that don't allow them work, right, to thrive. So if we are able to provide um, living wages to people, I think that that is definitely something that could help, with the migration issue. But if this is going to be an opportunity to exploit more people of color, it gets a big thumbs down for me. There we go, thumbs down. But any case, that's my 2 cents about that. And I don't know how well I did on actively calling people in versus calling them out. But again, sometimes we got to speak the truth, whether it fills the room or clears it out. So we are out of time, and I want to thank everybody for joining. Again, you should be starting in June with your finalizing your Q4 strategy. Check out in the coming weeks post. Next week, I'm going to be talking about fast fashion and is your money good here. So remember, our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive sustainable fashion industry by filling the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. I will see you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a fantastic week and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Bye.